It's a nice gun, I'll give you that. But the engraving gives you no tactical advantage whatsoever.
Alright, hello everyone on YouTube, and welcome to another WWYU. The new Incarnons are out, and this week I have picked the Vasto and the Soma. As a quick rundown, the Burston appears to be, based on other people's opinions and what they're messing with, the best one this week. And I think the Vasto is probably the runner-up to that, and that the Soma is not. We'll talk about the Soma more tomorrow, but yeah. The Vasto, which we're showing today, I think is quite good, and I think people are underrating it, just because it is not like an AoE instant kill, everything that exists in this realm of existence, like we've been seeing with, like, you know, the Torrid last week and such, but I still think it is very good. So, the Vasto, for the upgrades for this, I am on increased damage by 24, and on equip from primary, plus 30% critical chance, and plus 0.8 critical damage, which is very good. That is for 3 seconds. So, that's nice. And we have increased magazine capacity by 6, which is nice for charging. And then we have, at the final upgrade, critical chance by 18%. There are a few choices on here. I think just going all in on crit is the better one. If we check out the mods, you'll notice one particular weird thing in here, and that is the Seeker mod. So, whenever, obviously the stats here are the stats here, right? I mean, we're looking at some particular numbers. Worth noting that these numbers do take into account the swap bonus. So this is only what you get whenever you swap. But when you swap, it's insane. And if you don't swap, it's still totally fine. And then the Incarnon form is a bit higher. Obviously, still, though, these are the swap bonuses, so keep that in mind. But 234% crit chance with an 8.4 multiplier, that is monumental. This is killing people. Very, like, hard killing people. And because it doesn't need very much help in the raw damage murder department, we get to run Seeker and give all of that raw damage murder death punch through, which is quite good if you're planning on using this to kill a ton of enemies. You can, of course, just like build it single target, but I think even still, the single targets this is going to work on, we tested it on Archons, and it was middling. Unfortunately, it doesn't do the thing the Fel Arcs does. You kind of need it all to be in one shot, and this does a fan the hammer thing. So, not really an Archon weapon, but the acolytes just evaporate when they are presented with this firearm. They do not like it whatsoever, and entire hallways of enemies do not like it whatsoever. That being said, the Incarnon form kicks like a mule. So, we have steady hands on, and we are also using Deadhead. This gives us 110% less weapon recoil, which is additive, which means there is no recoil on this weapon. It is worth considering dropping a rank on steady hands to have 95% reduced recoil, if you like a little bit of recoil for feel. But optimally, of course, you'd have a laser, which is what this is. So yeah, this is very solid, but it's no Lex Incarnon. The Lex Incarnon is like a history rewriter. This is more of just like a very like good, fun revolver to be using. If you were a huge fan of the Pandero back in the day, that's kind of what the Vasto is it gets to be like a way better version of the Pandero, but for modern Warframe. So yeah, I do have just a regular Strun equipped. That's just so I can show the weapon swapping stuff, but other than that, it doesn't really matter here. Also, before I'm gonna forget, I'm gonna remember to equip a Panzer for the test that we're gonna do. But yeah, so we're going to drop in these level 190 Corrupted Heavy Gunners and just check it out. So if you see, it charges real fast. Incarnon form, you get 4 shots. But you get 4, like, 6-shot fan the hammers is basically what you get. Obviously, it needed that build-up time for Deadhead, but now you can see kind of what its actual power level is, which is significantly higher. You only need to get, like, the 3 kills for Deadhead to then do that to enemies, and they are not fans. If we restart this with our stacks of Deadhead on, you'll see that even in its base form, this thing is pretty good, and the reload for the Vasto is still pretty fast. It is a nice little revolver for just like taking out some enemies. Like obviously these are level 190 heavy gunners, but we can also just do this to them. And this is all without doing weapon swapping, so please keep that in mind. With weapon swapping, it does some different things. You can weapon swap real quick, and the enemies are not fans of it. They don't like it at all. They really wish it would stop happening. They get sent back in time with the crit. You crit so hard, you send them back in time. That was the main fire, not the Incarnon, worth noting. If we do the weapon swap with the Incarnon, which you can Incarnon it, and then weapon swap, it does that to a lot of enemies. It does that very hard to a lot of enemies. That is also a consideration. And of course, we have like the 2.1 punch through, so that means it's going to do that to everyone like down a whole hallway. This is actually like a bad testing environment for it, because optimal conditions, your enemies would be in a line, because we're using punch through in order to kill multiple enemies at a time, basically. But, you know, not a huge deal. Also, I let them kill me, unfortunately. See if I can get back up. I ran out of ammo. Oh well. Yeah, this thing just deletes a column, though. You will have to do some survivability against 190 enemies. Don't worry. Steel Path enemies actually don't do as much damage as these guys anyway. But yeah. So yeah, that's where the Vasto is. Taking this into Steel Path, it's pretty good. Like I said, it's not a Lex Incarnon. This week, overall, from what I've seen, seems to be, generally speaking, that the Burst-In is as impressive as previous weeks, and that the Soma seems not super great. It seems okay-ish. And that the Vasto is solid, but niche in what it is choosing, or in what it is, in what they chose for it to, like, be, essentially. It does revolver things, not nuclear annihilation, world-defining, era-changing things, like some of the other weapons, like the Torrid. Let's head to the Steel Path. The Steel Path Vasto. Gonna murder myself an acolyte. It's not bad, but there are better options. For the Soma, yeah. Like, the Soma, there are vastly better options, I would say. For the Vasto, I mean, like, this, like, niche is, like, not super full for what the Vasto is doing. And it's also got a completely different feel from all the other weapons that do this, because it's, like, it's very much trying to do, like, it's trying to be the revolver, you know what I mean? Like, it is very much like, no, we did not make an Incarnon that's totally different. We made a revolver Incarnon, and I respect that. It also just is a good time. Yeah, you really don't need to be doing the weapon swapping, I'll be honest, but it is fun to see all the numbers. Yeah, I mean, it's like... I mean, I keep saying it, but, like, it's not the late up, right? Like, it is not, like, new meta-defining tier or anything like that. But it is a good and useful weapon. Like, if you liked the Vasto, you'll be happy that it's, like, now, like, good. Because the Vasto didn't really have much time of, like, being good in Warframe. Like, there's a lot of times where it was like, all right, like, you could use it as a pistol, but it was always like so expensive and everything like that. Just like wasn't really worth it. But this, I feel like, yeah, this is worth it. You build into this, you get to do some things, especially to acolytes. We actually noted specifically that if you combine this with the way the Torrid works, you can actually use the Heat Incarnon or the Heat Arcane. That will build up no matter what you're using for secondaries. And then whenever something shows up like an acolyte, if you're using the Torrid to wipe out all known life in the galaxy, the one thing it has trouble with is like an acolyte. Swap to the Torrid with a swap bonus. Eliminate, goodbye, terminate, remove. So like those two weapons make like a really good pair. So if you chose the Torrid last week and you want a weapon that's really good to pair with it, that kind of like fills like the one gap the Torrid has, This is a really good, yeah. I mean, this is literally kind of exactly that. So that's a consideration as well. Yeah, also, like, the other mode for it, I don't think is, like, super worth using. The one where you get a little bit more base damage instead of, like, all the crit stats. I think that the swap form is better, unless you're on, like, a secondary-only sortie, I guess. But you're probably not going to head all the way to Cavalero to swap for a sortie, which is not very hard. Also, this thing, even without, you know, one of, like, the cheat code mods, like Hunter Munitions, it actually procs slash very often, just because it is, like, slash weighted. So that's also a consideration for, like, you know, getting some good damage out of that as well. Like, on enemies that are vulnerable to status, it is a very, very high shot count whenever you are in this thing's Incarnon form. You will get status, even though the chance is technically low. Obviously, it's not going to be a Torrid, but, you know. I think the point of comparison for a weapon like this, where we're talking about, well, it's not probably one of the literal best weapons in the game that just came out. I think that's probably, you know, you can't have that every time. It can't be that every single time, because if it is that every single time, then it means that the thing that it was last time is now just no longer that. Like, that means, like, nothing has any staying power if everything is always, well, this is the new best thing in the game. And I think this thing fills a hole that was not filled. This fills the people that really love the Pandero meta and stuff like that. Because even, like, for Pandero Prime, we were already, like, way out of, like, regular Pandero was the Pandero era. Yeah, we'll talk about how confusing the Soma is tomorrow. The Soma is a mysterious Duang. That big guy go? Extraction is ready. Oh, there you are. Yeah, so like this guy, fuck this guy. Eliminated. Acolyte's about to show up. Incarnon, swap. Goodbye. Goodbye, violence. Yeah, that's what this weapon's for. That's the purpose of this weapon. Seems effective, yeah. It's a bit effective. Acolytes fuck around. Acolytes find out. So, like, if you're going into Steel Path missions and you're like, man, my Warframe hates it when violence shows up. The Vasto doesn't mind. Vasto does not mind when violence shows up. It does not really care very much. It actually hopes that violence shows up. It wishes fervently for an acolyte or some tough enemy to kill. It is worth noting the Incarnon form cannot aim down sight. Also, like, if I had any criticism of this weapon, just for the sake of, like, the revolver-ness, it's not, like, it would technically make it, like, better, but, like, not really, because you can recharge the Incarnon form so fast anyway. I really wish instead of 24 shots, the Incarnon form had 36 shots, because it's a 6-shooter. Like, if you're going to give me a Fan the Hammer for 6 shots, let me do it 6 times, right? Like, you're letting me do a Fan the Hammer with 6 shots 4 times. But, like, come on, 6 times 6, baby. Like, that's the reason. Because, like, it's not going to make this thing killing hard targets, like, any faster. Because it does it in 1. But, like, it'd be nice. Come on. As you can see, yeah, like, I mean, because it is not an AoE death murder insane weapon, it's not gonna max out life support by itself, or anything like that. But like, we're keeping like a very solid life support here, and I think the kill rate will be like, oh, this is fine, and this is a weapon that's not even meant for what I'm using it for, right? Like, very clearly, I would say like what this weapon is like Seeker is on here to make it so that doing this is like valid. But you could not use Seeker and, like, just use it for, like, single targets or Xmas that are giving you troubles, or, like, an enemy shows up and is a problem, and then they are not a problem any longer. So I do think there's value in, like, how fast you can charge this on enemies with the punch through. I think that's quite reasonable. Where's that second acolyte? Pop, pop. No more Xmas. Yeah, this is for a hard target eliminator. This is for that enemy's a little tougher than I thought they might be. Goodbye. Like, if you just keep this thing in Incarnon form and then just swap to it, it'll do that. Oh, thanks. That's true.
This is the missile guidance system, bitch. We clown in this motherfucker.
Go back home. But yeah, I mean... yeah. You know, I mean... that's pretty good. Now, y'all ever spawn camp these acolytes? Yeah, but yeah, it'd be like that. I think this is a super fun weapon. I mean, like, it's clearly good enough on its own, right? Like, I'm using it alone, and, like, you know, I could probably pretty easily push this to 20 minutes. Like, not really a problem. Like, it's not going to stop killing the enemies by then or anything like that. People are really downplaying this weapon, but I think that, like, it has a place for sure. Like, I'm not saying it is a Lex Incarnon quality weapon, but it's definitely no slouch. It is definitely no slouch. Yeah, if you like a revolver, this is for you. This is the same Hildren build as the 2022 refresh. It has had, like, one update, mostly just some shards got added to it. Should have picked this over Soma. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully the Soma gets fixed. We'll talk about that. That'll be a tomorrow video. All right, everybody. Welcome to Post-Duviri Month, and thank you to all of the new and returning patrons. There are a lot of them, and it is hugely appreciated for the support. But we have our $10 patrons: Alex Parnham, Arbiter Daydream, Brutus Salazar, Dylan Dworsky, Athrain, Hafan, IQ is Thick, James Harthorne, JC4 Science, Jesse Richens, Joshua Adams, Lou Zanth, Alec X Williams, Minty Ginja, Mitchta, Paradise, Tamrielic Wastelander, Zach Zahner, and Zerafir to thank especially. But thank you very much to all of the new patrons and everybody that has jumped on board since, like, Duviri in this last month. It is hugely appreciated and really helps me run the site and just, like, get a lot of stuff done and get a lot of guides out. This month, you can expect me to hit up as many of the Incarnons as I can possibly get my hands on, because that is going to be a big focus here as we see that new stuff. And of course, work on more guides and things with the free-to-play 3 coming back around. All that. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.